Hello, students of Senior 3. You are welcome to today's lesson. I'm Scovia, your biology teacher. So as always, we are going to look at the unit that we are going to cover in today's lesson. All right? So today we are looking at Unit 4. That is the effects of human activities on ecosystem 1. If you see 1, it means there is 2. So today we are looking at the effects of human activities on ecosystem 1. So this one has a meaning. So when we talk of the word effect, effect can be positive or negative. So for 1, when you see 1, we mean that is the negative effects. We put emphasis on the negative effects of human activity on ecosystem, all right? So what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is the organism in a community and how they interact with the environment, all right? Organism in a community and how they interact with the environment. So today's lesson is going to look at habitat destruction. Habitat what? Habitat destruction. And the objective of the lesson is, by the end of this lesson, everybody here will be able to describe the reasons for habitat, or what are the causes, what are the reasons for habitat destruction limited to agriculture, housing, and extraction of natural resources. Those 3 major things. We're going to look at the destruction of habitat, but limiting yourself on agriculture, housing, and extraction of natural resources. So we'll tell what are those things, how are the destruction of this habitat made as a result of agriculture, housing, and extraction of what? Of natural resources, all right? Okay, now another thing as an objective for today's lesson, we are going to explain the undesirable effects of deforestation on the environment. Deforestation also goes hand in hand in the destruction of habitat, of the habitat. So we're going to see also what is the effect of deforestation on the environment, all right? So that is what mainly we're going to look at. So you need to be very attentive such that at the end of this lesson, you can tell or you can achieve our objective of today's lesson, all right? Good, so let us start and see. So when you look on the screen there, we are looking, remember the lesson is destruction or habitat destruction. What is habitat, by the way? That is a place, that is an area where we find animals and plants, where animals and plants live. The place, all right, that is habitat, a place where animals, where plants live. So the topic is, or the lesson is, destruction of habitat. So look at the diagram on the screen. Look at that picture. See? It was a kind of a forest. It was a kind of a forest with green, with a lot of beautiful plants and whatever, and the grasses, different kinds of plants, different species of plants and grasses. But you see, by the time there was a construction of the road, all the trees, all the grass were just cut off, were just put down. And you see that the land is just open. What does it mean? It means that those plants, even those small animals that were living or that or used to live in that area, you see, this area is open. It was formerly like here. See? The background there, full of trees, good species of grasses. And now as they are planning, as they started to plan to construct roads, this road here, you see the tractor tried to destroy everything, all the plants that was there, including even those small animals, all those small living organisms that were there, were just, some were chased away, others were killed, all right? So the plants were destroyed. So that is one of the things that leads to the destruction of habitat, the construction of roads. So whenever they are going to construct roads, they don't mind about the trees, the grass, and other organisms that we find in those species. So you find that at the end of the day, the habitat is destructed, and organisms, or those plants and animals specifically that occupied that place, some are chased away, and others are destroyed, or they are killed, all right? So that's one. So by introduction, as we said, a habitat is the natural place, a natural place where plants, animals, or other organisms live, all right? So when you go back to the screen, formerly, before the road was constructed, the land was covered by green plants and those grasses. So it means it was a habitat to certain plants, to certain animals, those wild animals. But at the end, as the road was constructed, as I said earlier, those plants were cut, the animals were chased, and others were killed, those small animals or those small living things there. Therefore, their habitat was destroyed. So this is a habitat, this is the living area necessary for an ecosystem to remain healthy. So in case the area was not cleared, the ecosystem would remain healthy. But as a result of destructing it, the ecosystem was disturbed. So destruction means what? Destruction means to change something so much that it can no longer exist as it was once. So this area here, even if you try to reforest or plant more trees, it can't go back and bring those species that were there at first, all right? Just bring in exotic plants. But those local plants that were there cannot easily be brought back. Therefore, destruction is to change something so much that it can no longer exist as it was once. Therefore, habitat destruction is the change in the home of a species to a point it no longer exists. Yeah, it's true. So you mean those plants and animals and some living organisms that were here, they no longer exist. You think that they exist? Not. They all chased away. They all destroyed. So that is habitat destruction. That habitat destruction is the change in the home of a species to a point it no longer exists. The home, it was your home. It's like they come at your home and they try to put down the house you live in. Do you mean you will still live there? Not at all. You will be chased away. You will go to other places to find where to live, where to find shelter. That is the same thing that happens in case there is habitat destruction. All right? So this change can actually be in many forms, including destruction, fragmentation, and degradation. So destruction of habitats leads to alteration of food webs and food chain found in ecosystem. What does this mean? When we talk of destruction of habitat leading to alternation of food chain and food web. What is food web? What is food chain? So in life or in ecosystem, there is a sequence on how food is supplied from the producer to the final consumer. So I always tell that the plants are the what? The plants, we used to say they are the what? They are the food supply or autotrophic. They are the producers, all right? So they're the ones that initiate the food chain. Therefore, the food web and food chain, that supply of food within organisms from the producer to the final consumer, that is the food web and food chain, all right? Now, how does the destruction of a habitat affect or alter or change the food web and food chain? We can say when one species in a food web is removed, if we have a food web and one species picked and removed, it has an effect on all other species, both down and up. So that is to say, if you remove one species, from the food web, it means the prey is that one which was being fed by the predator. All right? So the prey is going to increase in number for a while because the predator is no longer feeding on it. The predator is removed. All right? But remember, the predator also had another organism that was feeding on it. What will happen? That organism that used to feed on the predator, finally, if it has no another alternative, it will die completely. If it has another alternative, it will reduce in number. Therefore, you see, when, like, for example, we have a smaller example there. We have the grasshopper that feeds on the wheat. A grasshopper feeding on the wheat. If the grasshopper is removed from the food web, what will happen? The wheat population will probably go up. The wheat will go up because the grasshopper that was feeding on the wheat has been removed, all right, from the food chain. So now, the wheat population rises, but the population of birds, if there are birds that feed on the wheat, all right, they will die because they no longer have the wheat, I mean the grasshopper on which to feed on. All right? The grasshopper removed. They used to eat on the wheat. The wheat will increase because the grasshopper are no longer there to feed on them. All right? You get the point? So when the grasshopper that ate the wheat is removed, the wheat population go up. But the population of birds and mice which used to feed on the grasshopper will go down. So the birds are the predator of the grasshopper. They will die because the grasshopper, that the birds and mice that used to feed on them, they extinct or they are removed. So if in case there is another alternative, the birds and the mice have another alternative for food, they will also reduce in number. They may not die completely, but the number will reduce. You get the point? So you find when one organism is affected in a food chain, those that feeds on it will also be altered, will also be affected on one way or the other. They may die completely in case they have only that source of, they had only that source of food, or they will reduce in number in case they have other sources of food, but they can't remain the same since there will be some kind of competition for food, since the food has reduced a bit. All right? I think that is clear. Therefore, when the habitat is destructed, take an example of this diagram that we had there. Let's say some organisms were living here and they used to depend, let's say we had cows. Let's say we had cows that were grazed, that's just an example, that were grazed on this land. You see, the land was big before. Now this small part here is removed. All right? So they will just come and feed on this remaining, because there is a kind of another source, small source remaining. They will come now and feed on this small part remaining, meaning that there will be a certain kind of competition for food. Since at first they had a big land, and now a part of it is destroyed, and they are feeding on a kind of a small land. Therefore, there is a kind of competition among them, which may even lead to the weak ones to get finished or to die. I think it is very clear, that one. All right? So when happen to remove one kind of species from the food web or food chain, it alters other species, as the example given. Hope that one is clear. So what are some of the causes of habitat destruction? What brings habitat destruction? Class, what brings habitat destruction? Who can try to give out some points? What do you think will bring habitat destruction? Why is it that human beings destruct the environment, the habitat of plants and animals? All right? Yes, agriculture. Agriculture is one of the reasons why the environment or the habitat is destructed. So agriculture, since most of the people or most of the life lie on agriculture, on land for food, you find that a big land without caring which kind of plants are there, which kind of animal wild animals that lived in that, you find one day the whole forest is cut down for what? For agriculture. And they don't mind about the animals and many the wild animals and the plants that used to live in that area. So meaning that their habitat is being destructed. So agriculture disturbs the ecosystem, disturbs the habitat. All right? Good. Because this food is the major thing that is needed on a large scale. So you see that after clearing the land for agriculture, we lose very many important species, both animals and plants, therefore destroying their habitats. All right? So another thing that can lead to a destruction of habitat or can bring about a destruction of habitat is housing and road construction. As we saw at the starting point, where we saw the tractor trying to clear the land for road, even housing. One day, the land is occupied by the forest, plants, grass, wild animals. You hear that this company is going to come and build houses, let's say for orphans, let's say an example. So what will happen? That land will be cleared away. The plants, the grass, everything will be cut down. Without keeping in mind that there are animals, there are wild animals, there are special species or plants, those grasses that are in that area. So you find that their habitat is being destructed. So the conversion of land that once provided wildlife habitat are being used in housing, developments, roads, and industrial sites. This destroys the habitat. Construction of roads through wildlife zones exposes organisms to habitat change. The organisms become vulnerable to destruction from environmental conditions that are not used to. Let's say this land has had some small wild animals like the gallifers and whatever. So in case the trees are cut down, you will find them moving around, failing to get where to settle. No shelter, as I said, is like coming at your home, and you go back home from school, you find the house is down. What will you do? You will start to move to the neighbors to look for shelter. That's what happens also to these wild animals. In case their habitat, their homes are distracted as a result of housing and road construction. Hope that is very clear. All right? Good. Another thing that we had to put emphasis is the extraction of natural resources. All right? Extraction of natural resources. That is mining. Look at that picture. Don't think this land was like this before. So you're not seeing the soil, you're not seeing the stones, you're not seeing the tractor and whatever. No. At first, the land was not like this. The land was covered by green plants. Very many wild animals were there. But today, look, it's just a bare land there, just without anything like a plant, without anything like a grass, without anything like wild animals there. So what has happened? They're all cut down, they're all cleared down for mining, getting those minerals and whatever. So what does it mean? As we said in our objective that we are going to put emphasis on what? On these three main things. These causes of habitat destructions. You need to be careful on what we are running here, that among them there is extraction of natural resources, mining or quarrying. So you can see the land was beautiful before, but now look, just bare. Can't see any grass there, you can't see any plant there. It's just soil, only see soil. So here there were very many different kinds of species in this area before. Different plants, grass, small animals, some small living organisms, the bacteria, the whatever, they're all there. I mean, these small animals, like the insects and whatever, they're all there. But now look, the land is just barren. So please, that is also among the things, or among those things that can lead to destruction, or what brings the destruction of what? The destruction of habitat. All right? The causes of destruction of habitat. So we can look at the undesirable effects of habitat destruction. Undesirable destruction effects. So, what are those things that will arise which are negative? What are those things that will arise after seeing all that, after looking at all these things here? After looking at the effects, the causes of habitat destruction, after agriculture, what agriculture has led to, after looking at the housing and road construction, what it has led to, and after looking at mining, what it has led to. So, what do you think are the negative effects, undesirable effects of habitat destruction? What do you think when the habitat is destructed? What are the negative things that will arise? One, extinction. Extinction of what? Extinction of some different species, both plants and animals. So they will be in danger. All right? That is, we shall get endangered species. Species will be in danger to the extent that they will be extinct. They will get finished, apart from maybe a few that can rush and hide to other areas. But most of the plants, in case the land is cleared, like look there. Now, where can it hide? Where can it hide? If we had different wild animals here, where can they hide? The plants, they all cleared down. So they all extincted. So that is an effect, that is undesirable what? Undesirable effect that is brought about as a result of destructing the habitat. Extinction of both plant, animal species that were very important for different reasons. Another thing that may arise is soil erosion. So, and now look at this land here. I will emphasize on this. Look at that land there. All the grass is down, all the plant is down. What will happen in case the rain comes? What do you think will happen? If it rains, what will happen? Who can try to tell us what will happen in case the rain comes? See, the soil is on top, just bare. So what do you think will come as a result of this? So when the rain comes, all the soil will be washed away, or the soil will be taken away, and the land now, it will be infertile. All right? So these activities that we do that affects the habitat or destroys the habitat does not only stop there, it also leads to soil erosion. So when the rain comes, just takes the topsoil. You know soil erosion? What is soil erosion? Soil erosion is the washing away of the topsoil by the running water. So when the water comes and passes there, just takes the whole thing, the whole soil. Because of what? The extraction of these natural resources. All right? Another thing that we can talk about among the undesirable effects of habitat destruction is a rise in level of carbon dioxide. I always emphasize on this. When we say the rise in level of carbon dioxide, it means what? It means that when there is destruction of those, sometimes we find they are distracted by burning them, by cutting down. You see, these plants absorb carbon dioxide, you know? When you breathe out carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide we give out, plants use them for photosynthesis. That is very clear. Now, it reaches to an extent, there are no plants. You see? So the whole carbon dioxide given out by the factories, by the industries, by the vehicles, by everything, they just goes in the atmosphere. So when it goes in the atmosphere, as I always say, it will react with water in the atmosphere, water droplets leading to acidic rain, which is very dangerous again. So those are some of the undesirable effects of habitat destruction. All right? So you need to be careful. You need to conserve the environment such that by the end of the day, those habitats are conserved and the species or animals and plants that inhabit there or take it as their home will not be altered. All right? I think that is very clear to everybody. Therefore, we shall not end there. We shall go with a small work to do when we reach home. All right? So this is a small exercise that everybody will try when you reach home. So when you go back home, try to attempt those two questions. All right? One, how does habitat fragmentation contribute to the species extinction? Give the varying reasons for species extinction. How can we as human beings best protect biodiversity? All right? So those two numbers, you can go and try, work on them. Thank you so much for your good attention. We meet in the next lesson. Bye.